When you stepped into the work at Lightsource, how did you mentioned that your boss and mentor said, go figure out what you want to work on? And it's a small team, everyone wears a lot of hats. How did you begin to settle into the area that you knew was going to be your core strength? You've been for 6 to 7 years now, effectively leading the development arm. But how did you know that was the right area for you to lean in? And I guess what I'm looking for there is what sort of professional signals or decisions led you to take the first steps and then to continue through that evolution of your career of ultimately leading the project development and sort of market side of the business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say that I was really flexible, meaning that I came in, I had this background in a variety of skills, right? I worked on
Mhm.
strategy, I worked on energy procurement, I worked in operations and program management. And I pulled the skills from every single one of those projects in my very first role,
Mhm.
which was in a director for origination. And in
Mhm.
that scope of the director of origination, I needed to have that skill of really good project management, effective communication, understanding of the energy markets. And so I really did need to pull from a variety of the knowledge that I had from PG&E as well as from business school and from my energy management program. So it was a really good mix, but what I really enjoyed and how I continued to grow in my career was tapping that mix of the business and the people side. So as I continued to grow, as I took on senior director and then VP and SVP in that role, I took on more scope, which was a combination of more people as well as more scope within the organization. For instance, I took on the strategy for the organization. So that pulled from my past experience. It was something that I really enjoyed, which is how do we continue to grow as an organization, knowing that there's competition, that there's changes in products, changes in price, changes in inflation. So it's for me that thinking outside the box and creating that value for the company was really important to me. And that's the combination of the commercial side, which I already had, plus this longer term strategic thinking. So we formalized that. We also formalized adding the M&A under me. And that was because as projects started to get slowed down, you look external, you say, okay, hey, permitting is becoming harder, interconnection is getting delayed, and community engagement is getting tougher. Okay, that's slowing down the business, as well as costs are increasing from an EPC side and costs are increasing from an ops and financing side. So things are all working against you. Well, how do you keep the growth going at, in fact, at an accelerated rate while managing through that change? And so one of the ways that we did that was to add acquisitions to supplement our pipeline. And rather than having that as a finance team doing it separately, we did it a little differently and we kept it under my team, which was the commercial team, because it was paired with, okay, now we're quickly pairing that project with offtake. And so it was a lot faster turnover. So we weren't wasting time on acquiring projects that couldn't convert for years to come. It was like, nope, they're delivering within that same year or the next year. And so having that all within scope was really an evolution of my role, which was really just expanding the
Mhm.
influence and how I did it. But fundamentally, it was still driving the growth of the business just with incremental scope underneath me.
Oh, that's such an interesting and sophisticated answer. I'm really impressed. It reminds me of an interview that I was watching with the founder of Airbnb, a recent interview where they essentially made design a key function. And it sounds like your solution design oriented, that out of the box thinking, pairing different functions together and kind of breaking the walls between traditional departments played a really important role in defining the culture that you helped create over the
Yeah,
past six,
definitely.
7 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I would say I hit a lot of roadblocks along the way. A lot of
Yeah.
people that are like, that's not how we normally do it in solar.
Yeah.
And there'd be people that
Yeah.
are coming in from big companies that are used to doing it the exact same way. And I said, yes, but we can't. We are a new
Mm.
company in a very established market. We have to do things differently because if we do them the same way, we will
Yeah.
never catch up. to the next eras, the AESs, the 8 minutes, all these other big players. We're never going to catch up with them if we do it exactly how they've done it, because it takes a decade just to get your pipeline ready. So I did break down a lot of barriers, probably maybe rubbed a few people the wrong way with some changes, but in the end, people were really, they embrace it. It's freeing when you get into the organization because you can still do something differently. And as long as you're doing it for a reason, you're not just doing it because you want to grow your ego or you want to grow your ego, be able to make your pat yourself on the back, things like that. This is much more about, okay, I'm doing this to drive growth for the business. And that's how it's really helpful, is if you keep thinking about why you're doing this, and you're setting it, your focus on that North Star, then you're not going to get focused on internal politics or power grabs and things like that. So I do think the reason why we've had good success is fundamentally our culture is very collaborative and very enabling to try something different.
Yeah. That, I'm sure that has a little bit to do with your psychology background as well. Like you have the technical chops and the engineering degree to think very logically and very methodically, but sometimes you got to break those walls to think more holistically about solutions. And it sounds like you guys are doing an awesome job on that.